Jeremy McGovern has just been medically retired from the AFL due to concussion, so I thought this was the perfect opportunity to go back and look at how he completely changed the way that the modern AFL is played. We are talking about a perennial All-Australian, we are talking about a premiership defender, we're talking about a bloke who won a grand final with 6 broken ribs. And the reason he played in that grand final with broken ribs is because of how integral he was to that West Coast Eagles system that we're going to look at in a minute here. We are talking about one of the best intercept defenders in the history of the game, but also one that revolutionized the way that modern intercept defenders play. In large part due to this system, which is called the Weagle's Web, a defensive zoning structure system that was used by the West Coast Eagles and it basically won them a premiership. Actually, not basically. It did. Let's get into it. When we talk about some of the most influential defenders in modern football, we talk about players like Matthew Scarlett, we talk about players like Alex Rance, but what Jeremy McGovern did, especially throughout that 2015 to 2020 period with that intercept defender role, he completely redefined what it meant to be a defender. He was one of the first defenders that could completely dominate a game of football without necessarily dominating his direct opponent. Because largely, he didn't really have one, and that is the whole point. When we think about modern intercept defenders, we think about players like Darcy Moore, players like Harris Andrews, players like Tom Stewart. Well, the way that they play defense now was largely influenced by the way that Jeremy McGovern plays the game of football. A defensive role that isn't necessarily built on one-on-one defensive lockdown, shutdown football. Instead, built on elite spatial awareness, ability to intercept the ball, and a team system that funnels the ball towards your intercepting point. He was absolutely one of my favorite players to watch. 1, because of how smart he is, but 2, because of how smart the system that was built around him was. So before Jeremy McGovern, there were key defenders who dominated games, but they did it in a way where they dominated their direct opponent. They took the best forward from the opposition and completely took them out of the game. That was seen as a dominant defender. But then came along Jeremy McGovern and this whole new wave of defenders. Jeremy's main skill set that allowed him to completely separate himself from other defenders in the league at the time was his incredible ability to know where the ball was going to go. And when he mixed that ability to read the play with his unwavering confidence in his own decision making, we essentially saw a defender who was unafraid of leaking goals out the back because he was so confident in his own ability to either intercept the ball or spoil the ball over the line to a stoppage. This completely redefined the way that we play modern defense. He completely dominated a period of football where he led the league in intercept mark, where anytime you played the West Coast Eagles, you were basically forced to kick the ball to him because he was so good at what he did. And if you don't believe me, the most famous moment from a grand final of the past probably 2 decades was the Dom Shee 2018 grand final goal. Well, what set that up? A Jeremy McGovern intercept mark. Again, with the game on the line, Jeremy McGovern backed his own ability in, peeled off his direct opponent, Geordie De Goey, jumped all over Brody Myercheck and instantly took off with a beautiful kick to Nathan Vardy on centre wing. Now, that mark is what saved the game, but 1, his ability to read where that ball went is absolutely phenomenal, but also the confidence in that moment with the game on the line to leave your direct opponent out the back, which means if you don't take that mark, if you drop the ball, if you misjudge it, if you mistime it, Geordie De Goey is running into an open goal and Collingwood win the 2018 premiership. Instead, McGovern used the skill set that was given to him, his ability to read where the ball was going to go before it went there, and then his unwavering confidence in his decision-making ability to actually pull that off. We obviously know that Jeremy McGovern was an incredible player, but the system that was built around him, the system that was built for him, that might have been even better. Let's have a look at that. So after the popularity and success of Clarko's cluster, a lot of other coaches, a lot of other clubs tried to implement defensive systems that were similar to that. And the best and most impressive one of the lot was what we called the Weagle's Web. And it looked a little bit something like this. Now this is just one scenario, but probably the most common scenario where the Weagle's Web was so dominant. So this red dot is where the offensive team has the football. The black crosses are the West Coast Eagles defenders and players, but this red cross, this red star, this is Jeremy McGovern. When the offensive team have the ball right here, the reason that West Coast set up like this was to force this long kick here. And how did they do that? Well, they took away the most dangerous options. The most dangerous options in a game of football are through the middle for 1, but the next most dangerous options are the ones that you can actually kick to. And in West Coast and Adam Simpson's mind, that meant anything under 60 metres. So instead of defending their man here, the West Coast Eagles defender would sit in the middle of the ground, 50 to 60 metres away from the ball. Again, all of these players would have direct opponents which were here. And instead of defending their direct opponent, they dared you to take that 60-metre kick and were much more concerned about taking away your ability to hit these 20, 30, and 40-metre kicks. The kicks that you could actually hit, the kicks that you would most likely take. By taking away this play's short options around the football, the West Coast Eagles defense tried to take away every single option within 60 meters, except for the one that they wanted you to kick to here. This is why we call it the web. So they were constantly connected to each other, forcing the person with the ball here, the ball carrier, to kick into the middle of the web. So they wanted you to kick to this point right here. And if you did that, you were kicking a 50-meter ball to the point where Jeremy McGovern could come off his man and intercept or spoil that ball. As soon as that ball was kicked into the middle, this whole web collapsed into that contest. Essentially, the West Coast Eagles here set up a funnel. They took away every short option, every dangerous option for you to move the ball up the field, and forced you to kick to the point where they knew that their air superiority, their players in the air, their Jeremy McGovern was able to get to that contest, intercept the ball, or at the very least, spoil it into a stoppage. It was masterful for the time. It was a system that was beautiful, that was incredible, that was built on communication, but also built on the fact that they had absolute trust and faith in Jeremy McGovern's abilities. Won him a hell of a lot of games, and it won him that 2018 flag. And just to be absolutely clear, that one scenario is the tip of the iceberg to what made the Weagles web so good. But it is a great illustration of how important Jeremy McGovern was to that team. And now when I look around the league, and maybe now when you look around the league, you'll see remnants of that system and remnants of the way that Jeremy McGovern played the game in a lot of key defenders nowadays. Hell of a career, a hell of a player, terrible that it ended the way that it did. But let's remember, whilst he may not be out on the field physically, the remnants of his system, the remnants of the way that he played the game and the way that Adam Simpson allowed him to play the game is absolutely still out there each and every week.